I would like to thank very much Vasco, who's here, if you don't know him, the organizers here in Aveiro, Vasco Lagarto, Liliana Costa, and Paulo Nunes. They were really instrumental in fabricating this event, so I thank them very, very much. Insofar as the panel is concerned, we were missing a sixth member of the panel who got stuck in Turkey. He was coming from Turkey, but due to airstrike, we lost him. For the other sessions, we've lost also one Greek, one German. So airstrike is causing real panic. Now, in the background, you see here on the screen a video which was prepared by Intel, which I'll leave with the organizers. It's a very interesting video. It's pretty recent, and it shows you the state of the internet as it evolves every minute. So for those of you that are interested in this sort of thing, that's the sort of messages that come across from the analysis of the internet every minute. So it's absolutely mind-boggling what's happening on a minute basis. But that's not really the subject of our session. The subject of our session is smart cities and use cases. So let me get rid of this. I'd like to share with you a couple of remarks on this issue of smart cities and use cases. And let me start with this first one. We tend to ensure that our world becomes smarter and smarter and smarter, which entails that we monitor and we collect data out of economic activity, urban perception, human behavior, mobility patterns, resource consumption. I mean, there's no limit to what we can collect as data through sensors and this sort of thing. Why do we do that? Because we'd like to influence the interventions on existing cities. We'd like to identify incentives for rebalancing. This was quite well explained by João in his presentation. And we would like to ultimately to respond to the real-time needs of citizens. This is a very, very fundamental aspect. The other aspect is that sensors are all around, and I've taken this picture from a Spanish SME called Libellium, which depicts the world, or at least an aspect of the world, with all of the sort of positions where sensors can play a role. So it runs through everything from waste management to parking to whatever. And it's interesting because this is a very small company located, I think, near Bilbao? Zaragoza. And they're doing really very interesting work. Now, despite the fact that we all are eager to have all these sensors, only 0.2% of the planet is today connected. The vast majority of things and devices are not yet part of the internet, and I've shown you here a picture of some of the elements. You have there Google glasses, you have the IPv6 light bulbs, we have monitors of weather quality. This is a French company. We have a thermostat from an American company. We have the scale there from a French SME called YThings, and on and on and on. So this is picking up momentum. Oh, you have an interesting one, which is a smart, how do you say that in English? Got a fork. The smart fork. This was unveiled at the CES Las Vegas, and it helps you monitor the speed at which you eat, and as a result, tells you that you're not doing the right thing. So the frequency of bringing the fork to the mouth carries with it some fantastic information, which, if properly monitored, can help. So there is absolutely no limit to what one can do, what can be done in terms of putting these devices online. Now, the number of connected devices, according to Cisco and Ericsson, amongst others, will be of the order of 50 billion devices by 2020. There are, however, a number of problems that mobile networks, as they exist, they lack coverage. So that's why, I mean, as João has explained, he's using different mesh networks, not necessarily mobile in the classical sense of 3G or LTE. Devices are still very expensive. Service tariffs, if you're using a mobile network, pretty high, completely outrageous in some for applications like M2M. And there are a number of challenges that need to be solved, and I've just listed a few there. How do we manage such a universe of complex types and variety of devices? How do we sort out privacy and control and security issues, especially in a situation where the internet is not bounded by national regulations, but rather by an international usage, patterns? In other words, how can the privacy laws of Europe apply to the US, or the notion of privacy in the US apply? I mean, all of these things are not yet sorted, and it will be a long time before they really get sorted. To what extent can we deploy networks that will be capable of handling traffic from things? There's a small company in France who has deployed a network for the full size of France. It's called Sigfox. They have 10 transmitters. They use HF, and they have detectors associated with smoke detection systems for alarms at home. So they currently cover 1.5 million devices at home, with a network the size of France with 10 stations, 10 transmitters. So it's a very, very, very clever way of using not VHF or UHF, but it's lower frequencies. And it works extremely well because this is backed up by an insurance company who wants to be able to keep track of how the smoke detectors operate or do not operate, whether the battery is low or high. So it's meant for devices which only send information once in a while, and when they send it, it's just a few bits of information. It's not made for large quantities of traffic. Then we have, of course, one of the most important problems is the lack of multi-industry offering on this. All of these devices are manufactured by different companies. They're being served by different networks. And of course, none of the issues of management, security, and so on is properly dealt with. Then we have the problem that was already touched upon by the opening panel. How do we go about addressing issues of privacy in a smart world? And here I list all kinds of possible, or at least not all kinds, but a few of the cases where indeed we have problems of privacy. I mean, if you have your jacket with an RFID tag, as was shown in the case of Zara, then I mean, everyone with the capability of addressing your jacket will be able to know where you've bought it, and from that can derive and correlate that information with some other information about where you are, the credit card, and so on. So you end up with a world where the only way to escape is simply to log off, completely log off. Or we have to put in place security mechanisms and privacy mechanisms which are extremely strong, which is not the case today. Then we have also the problem of, we have the tendency that goes as follows. The larger the amount of data, the more efficient things are. The problem is that, and this is used for all kinds of good situations, like predictive software for police both in the US and England today, to analyze crime statistics and to say before a crime happens, send the police there because we know that something is going to happen there. Then we have this example with journalists that advise them on what stories to write. But all of that is based on the assumption first that the world is optimal when we have a crowd-based input of information, and the world is certainly not optimal, is really suboptimal. The fact that you rely on crowd-based solicitations has the implication that everything is perfect, and it isn't. And then, do we accept a world which is ruled by algorithms, by software? This is already touched upon by Antonio this morning, but I think this is a key issue. This is the sort of issues that I'd like the members of the panel to be able to address. So the panel participants are Luis Munoz. He will be the first one to speak from the University of Cantabria. He has a very interesting set of experiments running on in Santander. Ana Aguiar will tell us perhaps more about what João told us, or perhaps not, I don't know. Karl Rossinger from Linz, yes, yeah, he's there. Aluk was the one coming from Greece. He won't make it. Anastasius from Euroscom, he's there. And Carlos Oliveira from UBWare happens to be from Aveiro. So that sequence, could I ask you to spend 10 minutes, and then we have time for questions by members of the panel.